E meus amigos, estamos de volta para dar as boas-vindas ao nosso convidado esta noite. É um amigo de longa data que há alguns anos esta parte mudou-se para Cabo Verde, onde prossegue a sua carreira como músico e produtor. Aliás, ao longo da minha carreira, foi provavelmente o melhor produtor musical com quem já me cruzei. Senhoras e senhores, é com imenso gosto que apresento o meu amigo Leonardo. Rob, welcome to the US.
Welcome to the US. Thank you.
Great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you.
I don't know if I should do this in English, Portuguese, or Creole.
English.
No Creole?
Almost.
Have you learned anything in Creole yet?
Oh, I speak. The thing is, you know, my age, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm more comfortable. Most of my friends there speak English.
Yeah.
They speak Creole to me. I respond in English or Portuguese, or a mixture of both. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Cape Verde already?
8 years.
8 years already.
8 years.
Time flies. Time flies. We'll touch upon Cape Verde in a little while, but let's go back to your roots. You are Portuguese. For most people that don't realize it, but you are of Portuguese.
Well, my mother was 100% Portuguese. My father was. My father's father was Portuguese. His mother was Irish. So I'm 3/4 Portuguese and 1/4 Irish.
So you grew up in New Bedford,
I
right?
grew up in New Bedford. Yep.
When did you decide that music was going to be your life?
I had a friend. I was 10. I think I was 10 years old, 10 or 11 years old. I had a friend who played drums. And he lived near me in the south end of New Bedford. And one day I went down his cellar and he had a little stage and drum set. And he was playing drums and it fascinated me. And I asked if I could try. I said, yeah. So I sat down and I could actually play. Just by watching him, I could actually play.
Wow.
And it just came natural. And that was it. 11 years old, 10 or 11 years old, I started playing and haven't stopped, really. So.
Now, have drums always been your instrument?
Yeah, drums and percussion, yeah.
Excellent. And you are, and I'm not here exaggerating, but you're one of the best drummers that I know, if not the best.
Thank you.
And when did you start getting into the production aspect of music?
Well, I had actually. This is funny because it all turns back. It all has to do with my being in the Portuguese community. I was interested in recording. I would say age 15, 16. I found out about 4-track recorders. Back in the days, we had a machine that had a cassette, a regular cassette that you'd use in your car, except it would record 4 tracks separately. And I started getting fascinated with that and started doing that I made a little studio in my mother's basement. Well, it kept progressing. Eventually I got an 8-track. When I got the 8-track, back in the day there was a store called the Music Barn in Dartmouth. And I was teaching drums there and stuff, and I met Tony Henriques from Edge, and he introduced me to Dionísio Garcia. And Dionísio Garcia, because I had the 8-track studio, I was already doing, you know, recordings for other people, and he introduced me to Dionísio Garcia. And Dionísio, that's how I got introduced to the Portuguese community.
Wow.
Was actually through Tony and Dino. Dino brought a group of 3 girls called Só Música. I don't know if you ever...
I do remember them. I actually know their father.
Okay, so he brought them, and that was my first recording. My professional recording was back then in my mother's basement. From my mother's basement, it went to Swansea, where my mother mortgaged. She saw my dream of having a recording studio. She mortgaged the house, actually. Took out a loan for a lot of money, $50,000.
Wow.
Bought my professional equipment. That's when I started. And in the meantime, I had went to Berklee College of Music.
Exactly.
And Berklee College of Music, I got more fascinated with recording, and so that's basically it. Yeah.
You are amazing, and anytime when I was working at the radio, anytime we got a new CD in, all I had to do was listen to it if it was local, and I'd know that it had your stamp on it.
Yeah, for a while there. You know, back in the day, when these years we're talking about, not everybody could have a studio like today. Today you can take, you know, $1,000 and buy yourself a computer and a sound card and you can record in your house.
Exactly.
Back in the day it wasn't like that. And Most of the artists, actually, Dino, we had an interview the other day on WJFD, and I had read a list. I just looked. I don't have it in my phone anymore, but I read a list of, and I didn't even realize how many people used to record with me. Everybody from the top artists to the amateur artists in the Portuguese community used to record at my studio, and yeah, it's been a long career of Portuguese music, as well as other music.
But while you're doing production, you never stopped being a musician per se,
Right,
and
right.
you were still active on the road with various artists.
Yep. Yeah.
How many artists did you get to perform for here? Or let me put the question this way: what was the first band you were
First
part of?
band was, well, I wasn't part of the band. The first band was, I played Portuguese music with the first time. I'll never forget. I think it was out of town. It was either New York or Connecticut, Omanel. It was Omanel. There's a restaurant in Connecticut that a lot of Portuguese functions happened at. I think it was there with Edge.
Wow.
Edge is drummer, couldn't make it for some reason, and there I was learning. I'd never heard of bailinho. I'd never heard. I mean, the stuff I had recorded, I had heard, but I remember. I'll never forget. I remember. Learning Roberto Leal songs, stuff I'd never heard in the truck on the way to the gig. It was Edge. It was the first band I played with. The first band, Portuguese band that I had was with Nélia.
Yeah.
That was 6 or 7 years we had Nélia's band. That was, no, that was my first band. The first band I was a part of was with Arlindo Andrade. I think we were called Zona Norte at the time, and that's how I met George Ferreira, and that was the first band I was the drummer of, was Arlindo's band, yeah. But the first band that I had, my band, or our band, but I led it, was with Nélia. Yeah.
Excellent. Now you mentioned George, and you have produced some of his albums, and to this day, and many people probably don't know, you still mix
I was there yesterday.
of the top tier artists.
Yes, I was there yesterday. We just finished George's album for 2019, and we finished a really great project he did. He did a tribute to the Bee Gees.
Right. He was here the other day. He actually talked about it.
We just finished mixing the last song yesterday. So I just finished 2 albums while I was here. This trip. We worked on it a little bit last time, but we just finished with George. Yeah, so I'm still working with George. Yeah.
What do you consider the most gratifying part of your Portuguese community music career?
The most gratifying is meeting the people. You know, being associated with all the people. You know, the music. I like the music, but my heart is not totally in Portuguese music.
Of course.
You know, my roots in music come from jazz and funk. So the Portuguese music was always really easy for me to play. It was always, you know, because in this community here, you know, there's a lot of marchas, bailinhos, stuff like that. So that always wasn't my favorite type of music. So I don't think the music, obviously I always did what I could to make whatever I was mixing or involved in sound the best I could. But the music was not real. I think the community, you know, the people, meeting the people, working with the people, friends I made along the way. That's the most gratifying part, I think. Musically, it's cool, but that's not where my heart is. I think now, at this point in my life, I'm totally the gratification from music of Cape Verde is really that's musically that satisfies me a lot. That's why I live there. You know.
What do you like most, the studio or the stage?
Both.
Both.
I was away from the stage a lot. I mean, aside from Nélia, we played for several years with Nélia in a long stretch. Aside from that, I really didn't play much live. You know, I played in the studio a lot. A lot of those albums I played on. But, you know, the studio is great. Live is great. I like both. But now I can honestly say I do a lot of touring now. I play a lot live. In Cape Verde, we play in front of, you know, audiences of 30, 40, 50,000 people. So yeah, that I enjoy more.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. We'll talk about Cape Verde and what you're doing currently. Senhoras e senhores, Rob Leonardo, nosso convidado esta noite aqui na Hora Quente. Rob, que durante muitos anos foi um dos grandes produtores musicais aqui da nossa comunidade, para além de ser um excelente músico, mas agora está em Cabo Verde e vamos falar um pouco sobre isto logo a seguir ao intervalo. Fique connosco.